turn now to Florida Republican Senator Marco Rubio. He's a member of the Intelligence Committee. He is also one of many Republicans thinking of running for president. Senator, thank you for joining us. Prime Minister Cameron is obviously worried about more terrorist attacks. Do you believe the danger is increasing? There will be another attack on this country?
I do, and I think in addition to the traditional risk of terrorism, which is what we experienced at 9/11, people from the Middle East coming to the U.S., hijacking an airplane, crashing it into a building, in addition to that sort of threat, which remains real, there's also the threat of homegrown extremism, which we've been warning about now for a couple years. And what's made it more interesting, of course, and more dangerous is that, in fact, some of these individuals that are plotting these attacks may not even have traveled to the Middle East. They've been radicalized in a local mosque or online, and they've received instructions and or inspiration about how to carry out these attacks in the West from online platforms. So I think that's a very real risk for Europe, which is closer to the Middle East and has large immigrant populations from that region. But it's a real risk here in the United States, a country where every single year millions of people visit, travel to, immigrate to.
Well, are you satisfied the government is doing everything that should be done right now?
Well, we need to do more, and I mean, part of that is this debate we're going to have about our intelligence gathering capability. You know, there are people in Washington who believe that our programs go too far, and I'm certainly sensitive to privacy expectations and, of course, privacy rights. But the flip side of it, and I've always warned about this, is that there are people today, including in our own country, who are actively plotting to carry out attacks. Just this week, one of them was arrested. And they don't need a wide web of conspirators, one or two people. Sometimes someone on their own could do this. And we need to have the capability to identify them. Even with all that, I believe the chances are that eventually someone will get through the cracks and be able to carry out an attack. But as you saw in Boston a year ago. But it's a real threat. We need to do more because this new threat is growing.
On a related issue, the president made it very clear on Friday that he will veto any bill that Congress might send him that puts new sanctions on Iran. He says that would derail our efforts to get an agreement with them on limiting their nuclear capability. We know that some Republicans are very actively pushing that. Where do you come down on that?
Well, I believe we need additional sanctions. I believe any deal with Iran requires congressional approval, and I hope we'll move quickly in the new Congress to pass both of those. Look, the only reason Iran is even at the table is because of existing sanctions. And these negotiations, as they're going on now, are really not going to bear fruit. And I always hope that I wake up one morning and read that the supreme leader in Iran has become a normal person, but he is a radical cleric that shares a radical view of his theology. And he's the one that's calling the shots here in Iran. And he wants a nuclear weapon or a nuclear weapons capability. And these negotiations for them are nothing but an effort to buy time to gain some sanctions relief, but not give up any irreversible concessions on the part of the Iranian government. So I'm not optimistic these talks are even going to lead anywhere anyways. And we need to have in place sanctions that kick in when those talks fail.
We are also learning that in his State of the Union address, the president is going to propose, I'm told, $320 billion in new taxes on the wealthy, also $235 billion in new spending. Some of that will go to his proposal to offer free community college educations to everyone. Your take on that?
Well, I actually came out with a book this week called American Dreams, and in that book I talk about this. This is a 20th century outdated model that the president is following. The notion, first of all, that in order for some people to do better, someone has to do worse is just not true. Raising taxes on people that are successful is not going to make people that are struggling more successful. The good news about free enterprise is that everyone can succeed without punishing anyone. It would also be counterproductive. But here's my bigger point. I'm all for reforming our higher education system. In the 21st century, to have the skills you need for a middle-class job, you need higher education of some form or fashion. It may not be a four-year degree. The problem is he just wants to pour that additional money into the broken existing system, which a lot of people will graduate with AA degrees that don't lead to anything but another four-year degree that may not lead to a job. What we need to do is create competition with alternative methods where people can acquire certification programs that take less than 2 years and get you to work right away as a welder, an electrician, an airplane mechanic. I wish he would spend more time on that and less time trying to raise taxes and pour money into an outdated model that no longer works in the 21st century.
We're out this week talking about your new book, which is what prospective candidates often do when they're getting ready to run for president. What do you think is going to be the overriding issue in the next presidential election if you decide to run?
I think there are two major issues. The first, of course, deals with the #1 priority of the United States federal government, and that is our national security. At a time when we're facing threats from rising powers like China that want to rewrite the global order, like Russia that wants to ignore the global order, like rogue states like Iran and North Korea that want nuclear weapons to be immune from the global order, and radical Islamists that want to have a brand new global order in which everyone lives under the flag of radical Islam. That's the first threat we face, and we need a commander-in-chief that understands the nature of the threat and has real ideas about how to address it. And the second thing is, we have had a radical transformation of our economy. This 21st century economy looks dramatically different like the 20th century, dramatically different than the 20th century. We need new, modern policies to give everyone an equal opportunity to succeed, and I believe the next president of the United States needs to be someone that understands the 21st century and has ideas about how to take advantage of the opportunities of this new century so everyone can make it to the middle class and beyond.
CBS News has a new poll out this week. We ask respondents, Republicans and Democrats, we ask those in each party who they'd like to see run for president. Mitt Romney tops the list. 59% of Republicans say he should run. He is followed closely by Jeb Bush, and then along come others. We're going to just roll down the list here. You're kind of in the middle of the pack. One of the things the poll says that more than half the people say they just need to know more about you.
Yeah.
How do you fix that? And but let me ask you first, are you surprised that Romney's at the top of this list?
No. First of all, polls like this at this stage in an election are really just nothing but a reflection of name recognition. So it doesn't surprise me as you look at that poll that people that have run for president or have family members as president or are doing well in a poll like that. But the bigger point is the one you raised. Look, preseason polls in college football don't mean anything anymore. Who cares if you're ranked #1 in the preseason polls? What matters is who wins that final championship game now that they have a playoff system. And that's going to be the same here when it comes to running for president. If I decide to run for president, and I'm very seriously thinking about it because of where our country is today, I'm going to go out and run a campaign where I'm going to explain to people, not only do I understand the national security threats that we face, but that I believe that we need to turn the page and fully embrace all the opportunities and confront the challenges of a new century. And I believe that once we do that, a growing number of people will become convinced, if I run, that we should be the person that they nominate. But I haven't made that decision yet, but no matter what, that's who our nominee needs to be, someone who understands the 21st century and has ideas relevant to this new era in our history.
Senator Rubio, thank you for